You were out there, and I started to see the tweets, and then you texted me, and you were like, "Yo, this is not nothing. This is something. This is we got multiple fights. We got a body slam. We got Terry McLaurin yelling at people. What was it like to be out there at camp? And then we'll give people the details if they have not heard them yet. But what was did it feel ominous when you got there, or did it just things escalate over the course of the day?
And I think it boiled over into some frustration from the offensive players. Early in practice, you had Nick Gates, spike a ball at Phil Mathis's head for, jumping off sides. And I'm not going to lie, the defensive line was giving the O-line some work. And then, later on in practice, the play you just mentioned, where Benjamin St. Juice comes up with a big play on 3rd and short. He dislodged the ball from Cole Turner's hands, forcing an incompletion. And after forcing the incompletion, he stands up over him. It was real quick. I don't think it would have been enough to generate a 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty. But, he, showed off a little bit. And then you hit Terry coming from, down the field because I think he had a deeper route. And he's like, "You can't do that, man. That's your teammate. Help him up." And Terry's barking, back and forth with the sideline. And Chase Young's on the sidelines like, "Oh, snap, you hear Terry talking, it must be something serious." And then you hear EB from the other sideline, "Man, shut up. Get in the huddle and just play." I'm just like, yo, it was so quick.
There's a lot happening.
It was a lot going on. And then, Terry ends up breaking the huddle. He joined the huddle, and then he broke the huddle, and he's right back at EB. "Man, that's his teammate. You can't do that, bro. You can't do that." So it was a lot going on. But I think Terry, he did the right thing, standing up for his teammate and just being vocal, a vocal leader. I think Ron Rivera also gave him his praises in the post-practice presser. Benjamin St. Juice also was asked about it. So, again, I think it's just healthy competitiveness, and it's just going to bring out the best in everybody, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it's got to be healthy, and yeah. I do think today crossed the line a little bit. Let's hear what Rivera had to say first, and then we can. I'll give a couple of thoughts on it, because it is in many ways the opposite of what training camp has been praised for so far. But here's what the head coach said after practice today.
To be honest with you, I'd have been disappointed if we weren't chippy. I'd have been disappointed if we didn't get after each other's ass out there. I really expected it to be that way. This is our 9th practice, our 5th one in a row, and they're a little sour right now. They really are. It's one of those things where as things go and things start to happen, and you get fired up, you get excited. It's like I got hot sauce in my bag. I mean, let's pull it out and sprinkle it on each other and get a little excited about it, and that's exactly what happened. And I'm glad it did, because, again, this is about building the grit and the toughness and having to deal with this. We lost our poise for a little bit. A little immaturity showed. And we got to learn to handle that. When you get tired, when you get hot and you're frustrated and things aren't going your way, man, you got to bounce back. And so this is going to be a great learning experience for our guys out there, Bram. I think that, this is the kind of day you expect. It's our 3rd day in pads, and I really, like I said, I've been disappointed if we didn't come out like that. I mean, like I said, I most certainly, I got hot sauce in my bag, and let's go, let's roll.
First of all, they gave the players and coaches Beyonce lyrics all week, which I endorse as a bit. Ron did not do a good job with the bit. Way too forced. Yeah. Curtis forced it, but at least did it with a wink and a smile. That's not the answer to force that into. When someone's asked about a great play, just be like, hey, got a little hot sauce in the bag. There's ways to be a little bit more subtle. To the substance of what he said, I actually don't buy that either. To say you're disappointed if you're not chippy, maybe disappointed in Chippy, but disappointed in what happened today. Like, he did say, like, hey, we lost our cool. We got to be better. And I think that's where I land on this. Terry barking at St. Juste for standing over his teammate. As much as I love Terry, I'm actually kind of team EB on this one. Like, I'm fine with the competition. I'm fine with going at it a little bit. Yeah, that is your teammate, but you're competing right now. Just like get back in the huddle and go kick his butt next time. Like, the way I'm handling that, if I'm in Terry's shoes, is to say, like, I see you. You're not going to be standing over. I'll see you in the end zone. Like, that's how that should probably go down in this particular scenario. So, but I also like don't mind Terry standing up for his teammate. That's fine. Like that's a good characteristic. So while I'm team EB in terms of like get in the huddle and do the next play or get on to the next play, I don't think that's a bad thing or a negative reflection of Terry in any kind of way. So it's kind of like I like the EB's way of handling it, but no points off for McLaurin. When you talk about Gates and what he did, just ridiculous. Like childish, the kind of shenanigans that like you kind of expect from an O-lineman with his rep. Like there's a certain O-linemen that have a nasty streak, and part of the side effects of that, and you take the good with the bad. The side effects are you just kind of deal with it and you go like, all right, well, this is what we get for getting the stuff that we like on the field. But, it doesn't mean you shouldn't try to control it. You can't be throwing balls at people and whatever. Cosme Mathis, like, it's physical. You're getting your butt kicked. Don't body slam a guy. And I think that's ultimately like the maturity and the professionalism part of it, right? Is you start to do some of this stuff, what Gates did and what Cosme did, and you risk injury. And that's ultimately where Terry's point comes in, which is funny because what Terry did was get mad at taunting, not mad at something that could have caused an injury. But these are your teammates, and there is a line. And not even if they weren't, like if you're their opponent, like you're not out there to hurt people. And so it's a physical, violent game as is. These things happen because guys are tired of hitting each other. But I don't think it's necessary to have a good camp. I think it's a sign that your competitive juices are flowing, and that ultimately is fine. Like I don't think it's a huge problem, but we can't praise them on the days that they get really good work in and they're not doing this kind of stuff, and then be like, "Yep, no, finally there was a fight." Like, no, you don't need this stuff. You just don't. And that to me, like ultimately, the fact that that's coming from Bieniemy is the biggest takeaway here, right? If Bieniemy, the guy who's been in the Super Bowls, is like, we don't need this, then you don't need it. And that, to me, is kind of the end of the argument. And I hope that it's something that doesn't happen, certainly, again, while they're practicing together, and then especially when they get to Baltimore, because those things can evolve quickly in, like, full-team fracases, because there isn't that, hey, that's my teammate. But you just don't need that stuff, and there's no productivity out of it. It doesn't mean anything. You can be competitive without doing that stuff. Your competitive spirit can be fine without doing that stuff. And hopefully they got it out of their system today, and they get an off day tomorrow. See what they do when they come back on Sunday, whether it's a longer practice like today was, padded, unpadded, and ultimately building towards Cleveland next week. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Much more from camp today coming up in our training camp pick 6 at 6, and, of course, 5 o'clock when the Rooster will join us for Not My Beat. He's got big concerns about the offense. We'll see if we can talk the Rooster off a ledge or whether we need to go get on the ledge with him. That's coming up at 5. Coming up next, though, college football is undergoing its most major shift in a long time, which is saying something because the plates have been shifting seemingly nonstop for a decade. What's the latest development, and what does it mean for the sport? We'll talk about it. And then we got a game. Yeah, we're playing a game with you coming up at 4:30. Do you know where all the teams are going to land, where all the schools will be? Play a little Where Is That Team Now? Coming up at 4:30. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app.
After
It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube, youtube.com/@theteam980. A couple of quick news bites real quick because we just got them in the break, and then we'll get into our college football discussion before we play our game with you at 4:30. Do you know where the chairs will land, so to speak, the musical chairs, after all of the latest round of realignment? We will ask you coming up at 4:30. The prize is pride, which is the best prize we can give. So come hit the phones at 4:30 and have some fun with that. The news items are this. One, we just got the Commanders' schedule for next week. The team's going to practice again on Sunday. Obviously, we just told you they're off tomorrow. Practice Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before they travel on Thursday, play on Friday, off Saturday, and then they'll practice again on Sunday. I do not know, looking at these, which of these practices are open to fans, but that's available on the Commanders' website if you're looking to come out. But the Commanders will be practicing pretty much every day next week until they leave for Cleveland. The interesting part on this schedule, too, is we get the media availability of who's going to talk. EB talking on Tuesday. Del Rio talking Wednesday. So you got the two coordinators next week on Tuesday and Wednesday. And I know I'm going on Tuesday. I haven't decided if I go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll see. But Tuesday, definitely going. Eric Bieniemy at practice, or talking after practice. So that should be fun. No thoughts from you?
Oh, I'll be there.
Okay, excellent. That's really what we needed. Then this one is really up your alley. You see the Lakers news?
Whoo, that boy Anthony Davis.
Yes, he got paid. Anthony Davis agrees to a 3-year extension worth $186 million. That is the max, tying him to the Lakers through 2028 for a total of $270 million. Technically, this is the richest annual contract extension in NBA history. That is what happens when some of these older players, and Davis at this point, it's crazy, but he's been in the league for over a decade. When they sign their extensions and the longer they get into the future and the salary cap projected to go up, like every new one that signs is the richest one ever. His is going to average $62 million a season. $62 million a season.
That's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
But I love the move. Yeah,
I mean, not that they had to. I mean, honestly, if I was the Lakers, I would have probably not done it. I would have wanted to see what happens with LeBron. And then, I want to build around Davis, but, AD's had a lot of injury issues over the years, and there's a chance I want to go young and rebuild after LeBron leaves. But, they like their stars. They take care of their guys. And let's be real, keeping certain agents happy is very important. And AD is represented by Clutch, who's LeBron's guy, Rich Paul, and is also one of the most powerful agents. I mean, at this point, Rich Paul is so much more than LeBron's guy. I actually regret saying that. That's how good at his job and how powerful he is around the league. So if Rich Paul comes to you and with one of his best players, who most teams would give that contract to, if not all, and says, my guy wants his max deal, then you kind of go, okay, Rich, we'll get the paperwork ready. And so they did. All right. Massive news out of college football, out of the world of college football. And it is essentially the Pac-12 falling apart in front of our very eyes, which is happening just before the ACC is going to fall apart before our very eyes. Starting with the Pac-12, Oregon and Washington are finalizing deals to join the Big Ten, sources telling ESPN, a move that could, according to their story, dwindle the Pac-12 and puts the conference's future in the crosshairs. The schools are formally expected to apply for membership Friday, and a Big Ten vote is expected to take place this evening, according to sources. The Big Ten vote is expected to be unanimous for the two schools to join in 2024, sources said, despite the initial pushback from schools in the league on admitting them. So that would give USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington to the Big Ten, which, Anthony, brings the total to how many schools? That'd actually be another fun game. We can do a mini version of this. The Big Ten, okay, 10, has how many schools in it?
The Big Ten is supposed to have 10 teams in it, but I think it has 12. But if you add these two, then you'll have 14.
And you're still too short. It's going to have 18 teams. 18 teams by 2024.
It's getting ridiculous, man.
Yeah, I mean,
but I guess they're telling.
At least when they went from the Pac-8 to the Pac-10 to the Pac-12, in that particular conference, they changed the number with the team. Now, does the Pac-12 shrink back down? Does it become the Pac-8 again? Do you redo all the branding? These are the important questions.
They are. I mean, I think it would make sense.
I think it just makes sense for them to dissipate and go find other jobs because they're not going to have a lot left, because Arizona and Arizona State are also pushing to join they're pushing to join the Big 12. And at that point, you're down to 6, I believe, in that conference. And then they're trying to backfill, but like Colorado's leaving for the Big 12. It's just, by the way, it used to be in the Big 12, and then they left and they came back. How does Syracuse basketball get back in the Big East? That's a question for another day. But Florida State, Clemson, they're sniffing around at leaving the ACC, which could certainly crumble. And it just comes down to this reality that this is about money. It always has been. It would be hysterically funny if it wasn't so damn sad that as all the adults chase the money shamelessly and leave all of the parts of college sports that the public loves, the rivalries, the pride in the school, the history, the things that can make it great when it is, that they do it around players that don't get a share of the pie. And then, in fact, when they go get a share of a different pie, the NIL money, they get mad and say that's the thing that's ruining college sports, when them getting paid off their own name, image, and likeness has very little to do with the actual things that people love about college sports, which are all the things I mentioned before. It's cynical, but it's also business. And I said this yesterday when we talked about this more briefly. I think it's pretty clear, at least where I see this going, is that it's going to wind up actually resembling on some level some of the old rivalries. Like, the good news is it's going to go in such a vicious and full circle that it's going to wind up being what it used to be by different names. You're going to have the SEC with 20-something teams and the Big Ten with 20-something teams. So it'll be like the big conference and the other big conference. And then maybe the Big 12 is going to be able to survive, and it'll be like the other big conference. Or is the SEC the other? Anyway, you get the point. And all those teams or all those leagues will wind up having divisions, which will be like Ohio State and Michigan in the same division. You know, Florida State, if they wind up in the same place, because Florida State definitely would want to go to the SEC. Right? Does Florida State wind up being in the same division, and you get that rivalry every year? What used to be a cross-conference, Clemson, South Carolina, what used to be a cross-conference now becomes the same. Again, Texas A&M will be able to reunite where they used to be Big 12 rivals. Now they'll be SEC rivals, SEC Midwest Division, SEC not actually E Division, just Southern Division. Like, it's very silly, but I do think it'll wind up kind of working out. The question is there at some point a stop to this? In other words, will eventually we get to 2 or 3 big leagues, and especially for football? Like, there's a lot of logistics here that, we don't have the time nor the knowledge base to talk about in terms of how you get a basketball tournament organized, how you get a volleyball schedule when all the flights are commercial and you got kids who are trying to go to class because they like the NCAA commercial is true. Most athletes will go pro in something other than sports, and while there are resources and stuff available, like at the end of the day, they are in school. And if you are a student at the University of Minnesota and you got to be in Tucson because somehow you wind up in the same conference, maybe not Minnesota, give me a Big 12 school in that part of the world. One of those, let's say Syracuse winds up in the Big 12 all of a sudden. How weird does that sound? Not far-fetched. Let's say Syracuse winds up in the Big 12 or the Big 10. We'll just use Big 10, right? Big 10's absorbing USC, Southern Cal. If you are a Syracuse field hockey player, you got a big test on Thursday, and you got a game on Tuesday at USC, like that's not going to be a fun week for you. And there's just those realities. But even on the football side, where you do have just one game a week, it is on a Saturday. It's a little bit easier to schedule, and obviously you're making a boatload of money for everybody as a program. Is there a stop to stability, or to create some stability? Do you get to a point where there's two mega conferences and it just resembles the NFL? You have an AFC and an NFC, and within those AFC, NFC, except for it's the SEC and the Big Ten, you have divisions. And it's like, hey, guys, everyone is committing to this. Because that's the crazy thing is like all these teams are under contract, and there's media contracts, and there's apparel deals, and there's all these things that suggest that like, oh, we signed this with the impression that you would be here, that we would be getting these products, that you would be facing these teams, that you would have this profile. And all that stuff is gone. Just willy-nilly. So what I would like to see, and we need like a bunch of lawyers and stuff on the show to talk about how this could work, is, okay, let's rearrange the deck chairs. Let's shuffle around, play musical chairs. Eventually everyone lands where they lands. Do you eventually sign something binding, for even if it's for a decade, to calm the bleep down for a hot second and have some sustainability over some relatively short period of time to allow the things that make college sports great, rivalries to develop, all that stuff to settle down and just be good, as opposed to doing what you're doing now, which I think is pushing a lot of people away amidst a lot of chaos and incredibly naked greed. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Doesn't mean we can't have fun with it, though. 301-230-0980 is the phone number. 301-230-0980. I'd like to play a game. Where is that team playing now? 2024 is the date that we'll use. By 2024, with what we know right now, I give you a team, you give me a conference. See who can get it right, see who we get wrong, see if Anthony can find a buzzer and a bell in the break. That's on next. Give us a call, 301-230-0980 on The Hoffman Show. show. We are always live on the free Odyssey app as well as the Team 980, which you can, of course, listen to on 980 AM 1067 HD2 on your radio, either one. Happy to have you with us and streaming live on YouTube, youtube.com/@theteam980 each and every day. Okay, Anthony, we are still taking calls at 301-230-0980 to play our game. Where does that team play now? Where we will test the knowledge of you, the audience, of whether or not a team is in the same conference they used to be in, and you know that, and that's great, whether they're moving. So we're just going to play what conference are they in now. 301-230-0980. By the way, that is our new Ace Law listener line, the Ace Law listener line. 301-230-0980. But Anthony, so far, I don't believe anybody has actually volunteered to play yet, correct?
You are correct, sir.
You know what that means, right?
I don't know what that means. Enlighten me, please.
That means you get to be the contestant.
Uh-oh. Oh, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it is.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you want to throw some back at me, if you know, but the whole point is this is hard. I have the answers because I did research. You're not allowed to look at my list because then, well, that makes it a very stupid game because if we're pulling from the same list, then the answers are right in front of us. So if you have one off the top of your head you want to throw at me, like you're more than welcome to. However, I'm ready to just quiz you until people call in. So if you would like to save Anthony and get Anthony off the hook, you give us a call at 301-230-0980. If not, Anthony, you, sir, are on the hot seat. Here we go. First one. Wish we had like some dramatic music. Washington, as in UW, Big Purple School in Seattle. Where will they be playing football in 2024?
In 2024?
Yes.
Oh, this is broke today. The Big Ten.
There you go. Hey, just seeing if you're paying attention. Well done, sir. Well done. Well done. Yep. Oh, that was, I was clapping. Now that's fake. I mean, it might have been real people clapping. It's a sound effect. I don't know. AI can do a lot of stuff, man.
Yes, sir.
All right. 2024. Where will the University of Southern California, USC, the Trojans, fight on, be playing their college football?
So they're no longer in the Pac-12, right?
Yes, that is correct.
I thought
Although
it was a trick
some of these might be, but yeah, I guess you tricked me into revealing that it's not a trick question.
USC will be headed to the Big 12.
Incorrect. Hello? A doorbell? That's what we're using?
I'll get a different one.
Okay. You missed the question. Now you have to go answer the door. Okay. I mean, that's what you want to do. They will be in the Big Ten as well. It'll be them, Washington, UCLA, and Oregon are your teams that are going Pac-12 to Big Ten. So that's kind of, they were the first, along with UCLA, domino to fall. All right, 2024, where will Hook'em, University of Texas, be playing?
2024, Texas. Texas will be playing, and these aren't trick questions, right?
Some of them are. Some of them will be currently, like they're in Conference X and they're staying in Conference X.
This isn't even fair. I'm going to say the Big 12 still?
No, sir. No, sir. Incorrect. Yeah. Sadness.
I'm going to do terrible.
They're going to the SEC.
Oh, my gosh.
All right. Now.
The SEC, Texas?
Texas to the SEC. Will Oklahoma be joining them? Oklahoma, where will they play in 2024?
Dude. Dang. Have I been under a rock?
Anthony, I try not to ask questions about where you go.
You said Oklahoma, right?
I did.
They're
That's what
going
you
with
got.
them, baby, to the SEC.
Hey, you got one! Nicely done, sir. Nicely done.
That was a good guess.
All
An
right.
educated guess.
Educated guess. All right. Next one on my list here. And I do love that the callers have not bailed you out. They're just like, Anthony, we're going to leave you to hang in to dry. You, sir, can suffer playing this game for our entertainment. Florida
okay.
State. Florida State. Where will they be playing their football in 2024?
Oh, easy.
Easy?
Easy. The SEC, baby.
Here's the thing. You're probably going to wind up being correct. But as of the time that we live in right now at 4:39 on Friday, August 4th, 2023, they're still in the ACC. Heavily expected to leave. However, they are currently right now in the ACC.
This isn't the life I deserve, Craig.
No. When it comes to college sports, nobody gets what they deserve, Anthony. That's kind of the point of the game.
You're out here throwing curveballs, man.
That's what you get for playing Sweet Caroline on me earlier this week. Florida State ACC. All right. To the big house we go.
Uh-oh.
John Harbaugh. Pop quiz. Bonus question. Will John Harbaugh coach the opener for Michigan this year?
Ooh, he's in trouble, isn't he?
That's kind of what I'm asking.
He will not.
That is correct. He's
Yes, sir.
suspended, I believe it's the first 4 games of the season for recruiting violations, although I do believe he is appealing. All right, and in 2024, next year, Michigan will be playing football in what conference?
Oh, Michigan's leaving too? Okay.
Maybe.
They
Are
will
they?
be headed. They will be headed. They're headed to the ACC.
No, they're not going anywhere. They're in the Big Ten, and they're
Oh
going to stay
my
there.
gosh, Craig, I thought I was getting cozy at this point.
Yeah. Was that you slipping in a Beyonce lyric? Or that was just your turn of phrase there by happy accident?
Oh, that was a happy accident.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. No, Michigan's not going anywhere. They're one of the pillars, the Big Ten. Basically, if you're in the Big Ten or you're already in the SEC, you're not leaving. The question is, who's joining them and from where?
Okay.
All right. Believe it or not, Anthony, we're about to get to the hard ones.
The
But
hard ones.
I'll give you one more first that I think you're going to be able to get. Our alma mater, Syracuse, will play football where in 2024?
Come on, dude. ACC.
They are still in the ACC as of right now. If you had to guess where they are by 2026, where would you guess?
2026?
Yeah. My guess is Big Ten.
My guess, the ACC, baby.
ACC is not going to exist in that long.
Okay. All right.
I do wonder if there's going to be some basketball football splits. Because, like, are Duke and Carolina really going to, like, they'll go to, but I also feel like, some of these schools will, like, go off in pairs. Like Arizona State currently are still in the Pac-12, but they've applied to the Big 12. Like, they'll go together. USC, UCLA will go together. And then there's schools that are going to wind up together that you're like, sure, I guess. Like BYU and UCF. BYU and UCF are going to, in 2024, Anthony, be playing football in the same conference. This is your final question. Which conference is that? BYU and UCF. One is in Utah. The other is in Orlando, Florida.
I think I know where they're going. They will be headed to the Pac-12.
No, they're not. That'd be really silly if a team from Orlando, Florida was in the Pac-12. I mean, look, it ain't exactly.
I mean, one's in Utah right now, though.
Yeah, no.
And then one's at.
Look, I hear you.
Probably what is it? What is it? The All-American
No, it's going to be the Big 12. They're really going to be putting the big in Big 12.
Wow.
By the way, Provo, Utah is where BYU is. And I'm currently on one of the flight websites. Let's see how long it takes to get from Provo, Utah to Orlando. It does look like one of the airlines has, let's see. Oh, you can fly from Provo to Santa Ana, Orange County, and then to Orlando. That's a 7-hour trip with a layover. Most of these are 9 hours. Lots of discount airlines. You can stop in Phoenix. You can stop in San Francisco. You got the Provo to LAX to Atlanta to Orlando. Yeah. This is going to be a disaster, bro. Real bad.
Yeah, it's getting out. I don't know, man. It's weird. It's just so weird. It is so weird. All these schools in one big conference, and I think half the time, like, you might not even end up playing half the schools, or they'll do like the Big Ten.
Well,
like
that's the thing is they're going to have to do these divisions, and you're not going to wind up playing a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I will say there is a direct, though, from Salt Lake to Orlando. So I don't know how long the drive is from Provo to Salt Lake, but perhaps when BYU and UCF get together, which is the conference rivalry that everyone's been waiting for, that's how they'll travel. All right, that was our game, which Anthony got totally hung out to dry in, but that's okay. Sometimes you got to take one for the team, and Anthony, I think you did that very well. Coming up next, our weekend preview here on the Team 980.
Here's what's trending.
Cock-a-doodle-doo, the Rooster joins us coming up in 11 minutes, top of the hour. He was losing it a bit on Twitter today about the Commanders' offense. They did not have a good day. Is the Rooster officially at a point of concern? I would like to, and you know, remember in the early days of the show, Anthony, when we did football therapy with Linnell?
I do remember those days.
I kind of feel like that's what we need to do with Russell. That could be a recurring bit on the show. When Russell gets too worked up, we just let him unload on his show. And then we say, all right, Chris, come on our show. We're going to help you soothe your mind and heal your soul before you go home for the night. He doesn't need to take that home with him. And if we can be of help, I think we should. Now, we'll just leave him wound up. That's a good point. Very good point. You said it with your face. All right. Weekend preview time here on the Hoffman Show for right now. Ton going on this weekend. A lot of times we talk about Formula One in this segment. No race this weekend. They're on their summer break. Spirit tonight are in Orlando. DC United, I believe, also plays this weekend. I'll double check that in a second. Whoops, meant to check that one in the break. Nats are in Cincinnati for the weekend. So you got your baseball team on the road, soccer team on the road tonight. And then, obviously, we got the big soccer game coming up on Sunday, the U.S. Women's National Team against Sweden. We will talk about that in just a moment. Let me see DC United's schedule real quick. I know they played League Cup against Philadelphia yesterday and lost. So they're actually off. So they had they lost in penalties in the League's Cup game yesterday. So DC United is off until looks like August 20th. So they got a nice little break here in the schedule. There is a fight this weekend, Anthony. There's a fight between Jake Paul and Nate Diaz. How would you describe and after your prognostication last weekend, maybe we try again? How would you size up this fight, and what is your prediction? Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz.
First of all, we're not even going to compare the two. My favorite.
We're just gonna compare your ability to break them down, which hopefully it's inverse of the fights. Last week's fight better, this week's breakdown better.
Yes. So this week, yes, we have Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. I think Jake Paul is gonna destroy him. People really don't understand like how much work Jake Paul has put into this boxing thing. And I have all the respect for Nate Diaz. He's a warrior inside of the cage. But I think the boxing thing is just – I think he's just going to take a beat down. Like, he's one of those guys that's, he's a warrior. He's going to go in there. He's going to give it his all. And, he's going to take a beating like a man. He's not going to throw in the towel. And it's probably going to end up going the distance. I'm hoping Jake Paul, knocks him out, gets him out of there early just so he doesn't have to endure as much of a beatdown as I envision him beating. So sometimes you got to put your ego aside and,
Yeah. I mean, it is – if you're Nate Diaz, though, like if you're Nate Diaz and you've got a great reputation in UFC.
Yeah.
And you're fighting a guy who is actually like pretty decent as a boxer.
Yeah.
But is more known because he's famous than he is for his skill, whatever that means for Jake Paul. Why would you take how much money is Nate Diaz making for this fight?
He's going to make a lot. I don't know how Jake Paul does it, but he generates a lot of money. He's also a promoter. So like,
hey, he's got a huge social media following.
Yeah, and that too. So
like a lot of people, I mean, social media following means there's a lot of people that are interested in him. I don't particularly know why, but.
And recently we've just been seeing a lot of UFC fighters do this. Like Francis Ngannou, UFC heavyweight champion of the world, he's about to fight Tyson Fury.
He's going to get murdered.
he is going to get married. But guess what? He's going to make a ton of money fighting Tyson Fury. As
it's
opposed
kind
to,
of it's kind of like the, hey, how much money would it take to let me hit you in the face? And it's like, I don't know, 50 million? Okay,
Yeah.
let's go. It's like,
sign me up.
okay, if that's what you want to do, I don't think. I mean, look, I'd take 50 million, but I don't.
Yeah.
Just want to know that my cranium's going to be intact afterwards. It's 50 million if you can't enjoy it because you're dead, or you're.
Yeah.
I mean, and obviously, like Nate Diaz is not in that kind of trouble. Like he's gonna be able to put up a fight. He's trained for this. He's an actual fighter, but it is kind of, I don't know. It is crazy to me. But that's the game. And it's also, I mean, I don't know. You're like a actual huge boxing fan. Is this something that like kind of makes you sad about the state of the game, or is this like it is what it is? Boxing's always been a bit of a money grab. It is, money.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I view it. Boxing is a money grab, and I think boxers, like for instance, when Nate Robinson got knocked out in the ring, like a lot of boxers did not like that just because you can't play boxing. Like you can play every other sport. You can go out and you can be a boxer and go play basketball. You can be a boxer and go play flag football. You can do that. But when it comes to like getting in the ring, like people can really seriously get hurt.
Yeah.
So I think that's more so along the lines of, not playing boxing and, it being a serious sport for some people.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, that's tomorrow night. As far as the U.S. women's national team versus Sweden, I have a weird feeling the U.S. is going to pull this out. But we'll get into the tactical breakdown an hour from right now as part of this, that, and the other thing. Got some NFL news to talk about in that segment as well. That is all an hour from right now. Clinton Yates coming up at 5:30. But next, the Rooster crows at us on a Friday. Big day at training camp. What did he make of it? That's next on the Hoffman Show. Morning Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Anthony, this song is actually terrible, and we should never play it again. Not like just quality. Like, go look up what the song's about. I'm about to ruin a lot of people's days. Go look up what the song "Who Let the Dogs Out" by the Baja Men is about, and then we're not going to play it anymore.
All right.
And, like, I say that as someone who that song was like a fun song we sang in childhood because people thought it was about, like, canines. It's not. So, just, the things you learn that ruin your childhood are really, frankly, terrible.
Dang.
Yeah, I know. Sorry to ruin it for everybody, but just go Google that. And as you do, we'll talk to Chris Russell. It's time for Not My Beat. All right, Chris Russell, how are you, sir, first of all, on this lovely Friday?
Hi, Craig Hoffman. How are you? You should have played, Anthony, you should have played Who Let the Rooster Out,
Yeah. I mean, if we have that remix.
But I guess sometimes they let me out of the cage.
Yeah, we're going to let you crow a little bit because I saw you were in a kerfuffle on Twitter today, which is weird because that's never happened to you before.
Right.
Bit of a kerfuffle about the offense today. No one's saying that that they had a good day. What made it a particularly bad day, and how concerned are you about it?
All right, so a couple of reasons why I'm concerned, but I'm not like, oh my gosh, panicked, like they can't ever fix it, is because we all know the similar storylines, right, that we've all been talking about, which is installing a new offense, rookie plus quarterback, largely new offensive line with 4 different moved pieces or new pieces, good defense, not game planning, all of that stuff, right? Going against a good defense, all of that stuff that you hear. Here's my problem, Craig, and you've been out there a bunch, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first of all, there was an illegal man downfield penalty. There was a 2 false start penalties, and there was, I think, an illegal shift penalty. So the officials were there. So very sloppy in that regard. The other problem is, a lot of the throws that they made were there from the quarterbacks. One down the sideline to Kyrick McGowan, and it just goes right off of his face mask. He goes up to catch it, and it goes right through, and it hits off of his face mask, and his teammates and coaches are yelling it went off his bleeping face mask, like they almost couldn't believe it. It would have been 7, in a drill. He beat the coverage, and he didn't make the catch. There was a terrible interception from Sam Howell in the right flat to Benjamin St. Juste as he tried to kind of lollipop the pass over St. Juste. And, of course, Ben read it. It was right to him. He leaped up a little bit, boom, and picked him off. There was another interception. I want to say it was Cam Curl, but I could be wrong. I don't have my notebook right in front of me as I'm driving here. But there was another interception that did not look good. There was another drop pass from a receiver where the receiver literally had the ball thrown at his chest plate in his hands, and he slips and he kind of falls. As he's trying to make the catch, there was nobody around him. He doesn't make the catch. He starts bobbling it all over the place, and then it falls to the ground. There were countless more examples of this, but what I'm trying to get at is I don't even think, Craig, and maybe Anthony would disagree, that this was a byproduct of great defense. There were some great defense. Emmanuel Forbes had a really nice practice, a very tight coverage several times on Terry McLaurin. I don't think this was a byproduct of, oh, my gosh, it was a tremendous pass rush. It was tremendous coverage. A lot of this was sloppy and not making plays that were there to be made. And that was I guess that was my general walk-away feeling and why I was so down on the offense, combined with the fact that they haven't really been sharp for a week. I mean, it's been a week. It's been since last Thursday where they've had even remotely what I would call a good practice.
So interesting and a lot of, well, first of all, great information, which I think is the most important thing, right? We want to make sure everybody that can't go out to practice, especially on a day where the fans are not allowed, so it's not like there was 3,000 people that are like, yeah, nope, that's what I saw too. So great stuff. Here's how I would try to contextualize it, and here's where I would like start to poke some holes and say what I, at least for me personally, what I care about, what I don't care about, and feel free to agree or disagree if you think they speak to larger issues where I say they don't. Like a Kyrick McGowan drop, I don't care. With all due respect to Kyrick McGowan, who's actually a pretty good player. Like he could show up somewhere as a fourth receiver and have a couple hundred yards on a season and make a big play or two. But he ain't making this team. And so him, like those kinds of drops, I would say add to the frustration, but actually don't matter in the long term. To me, the stuff that is genuinely frustrating and problematic if it continues is the pre-snap penalties, the execution type of penalties. Those things are huge problems because those are drive killers. They show a lack of discipline and attention to detail, which is kind of the whole new thing with this team with Bieniemy. So depending on whether those were starters, second teamers, guys that might actually play, or third teamers, I would say that is a problematic. But they actually have been fairly clean throughout camp on that stuff. So I would say one bad day doesn't really move the needle for me.
Well, I agree in general with almost everything you said, but they weren't good. Was it Wednesday maybe it was Wednesday, the last padded practice in terms of pre-snap penalties. There was a couple of those too. And when I say not good, I mean, obviously in every game, most teams have, 4, 5, 6, maybe even more penalties, depending on how disciplined, undisciplined you are. But I would agree in general, those are. One other thing that is concerning to me, I've seen 6 terrible snaps this week since Saturday from Nick Gates. And I mean terrible by like way high over Sam Howell's head to the point where the dude almost needs a ladder to go up and get it. Now, he's pretty good at snaring them and saving them, but that is the kind of, you call drive disruptors, penalties. I agree with you. That's sometimes a drive disruptor when you have a bad snap and the timing of everything is thrown off. And thank goodness Sam has been able to corral them. But, Craig, I mean, they've been, if Sam's 6 foot, soaking wet, they've been 7.5, 8 feet in the air and over his head. So that's got to get way better. It's been a bad week for Nick Gates, who's probably had more fights and more brouhahas than good snaps, So it's little things like that.
Well, hold on, Chris. Hold on 1 second. I know you're being hyperbolic, but like they're running 100 plays in practice.
I know. I'm teasing.
And so, like, I know you're teasing with Nick Gates having more fights than good snaps, but I do think, like, that is an important thing to point out, too. Like, the number of penalties, the number of mistakes you have in the course of a practice, when you run that many more plays than we're used to seeing, I think is something to consider here. Like, I think what made today, and Chris Russell's with us, as if you didn't know, here on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. The thing that I think made today so frustrating for everyone is it seemed like the volume of mistakes was significantly higher, where they've had the issues on other days, but it's sporadically here and sporadically there. And over a 2.5-hour practice with literally 100 plays in it, if 7 or 8 go awry, then that's just the price of doing business in the NFL. It seemed like today there was a higher intensity, and I guess I'm just not that I'm saying you're freaking out and you think they're going 0-6, 0-17, and I'm not putting that on you, but it does seem like this was a very bad day, and and this was like the worst one by far. But some day has to be the worst day, and it just happened to be today. At least that's the way I see it. You were there, though, and I wasn't.
Fair. Yeah, that's fair. I would just say this is maybe on me, maybe an overreaction, but a general building frustration over the last week.
Sure.
And actually, I do want to point out, I thought the quarterbacks, while not good enough today, I thought in some of the cases, and some of my frustration at least, and I'm not sure, what Anthony and others saw, was, Craig, like some of the passes were there to be made. And yes, maybe by backup guys and whatever, guys that are not going to make the active roster, maybe guys on the practice squad. like in the practices past, I thought the quarterbacks were largely lousy in a lot of ways. I thought the quarterbacks were a little bit better today in terms of their ball location and accuracy, and players weren't making plays. Again, maybe just a general overreaction. I'm sure it is, right? I want to see them, of course, not only in pads, but I want to see them in a real live game situation, maybe like when Myles Garrett is actually in uniform and playing for the Cleveland Browns next Friday night. I want to see what this first-team offense looks like. I said today, I don't know how you feel about this, I want to see them play at least 3 series and maybe into the second quarter. They need the work. They're not good enough. Nobody's good enough on that first-team unit outside of Terry McLaurin. And actually, Terry's been barked at several times by Eric Bieniemy over the last week and a half for various little things, which I kind of like because it shows no favoritism. But, even Terry, you can't say, has had a perfectly crisp, clean training camp so far. But you don't worry about a guy like that. I just want to see this first-team offense play a lot sharper, a lot crisper. The penalties, the execution, non-drops, catches, all of that stuff. And when plays are there to be made, plays are there to be made. Now, I will say this, one thing that I've been, I think just to put a positive on this, and I think Logan Paulson agrees with me. I don't want to speak for him, but
no, that's my job. I'll speak for Logan.
Okay. I think the run blocking has been a little bit better than certainly the pass protection, number one. And number two, I think I've seen, and again, you know this from years and years and years of being on beats and being around, coaches always tell you running backs and safeties are the hardest ones to get a gauge on. I like this running back room. I like how physical and downhill they can get. And I think they run pretty low to the ground and get good pop. And I think this running game is going to be a little bit better than people are anticipating or maybe people are thinking. So there's your positive note.
So I agree with you that the running offensive line play, running game offensive line play has been better than pass pro. Logan also does agree with that. I know that because we talked about it extensively on the podcast. So I will speak for him, or at least relay his opinion. But I want to go back to your negative thing when you tried to spin things positive and have people take a deep breath. But I want to go back to your quarterbacks being lousy take. Yeah. Anthony, you've been out there even more days than I have actually at this point. Would you describe outside of today the quarterback play as lousy?
I wouldn't say lousy, but I would say inconsistent.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I would not say lousy either. And I would say it has ebbed and flowed the way it's supposed to. And what I mean by that is this. When you get in a team blitz period, not great. They've faced some pressure and haven't been able to really beat the blitz with the regularity that you'd hope if you're Eric Bieniemy. When they're in 11-on-11, they've faced a lot of pressure. The first-team offensive line has not done well against Montez Sweat, Chase Young, John Allen, and Deron Payne because what offensive line will? Certainly not this one. And the pressure has caused some issues. But I do think largely in 7-on-7, they've been pretty good. Certainly they've had a couple of turnovers here and there, and the defense still gets to win some reps. But I generally think that, when some drills are designed to be more offensive or offensively friendly, they've done better. When they've been defensively friendly, they've done worse. What that's ultimately going to translate to is I don't know. I think Cleveland next week, I agree with you. I hope they play quite a little bit and we get to see more. But even then, they're not game planning. But I think, Chris, I've been doing this long enough now to just go, and we try to say this every year as much to ourselves as we do to fans, and then we fall in the same traps. And I'm determined this year not to do it, which might make me look extremely stupid by week 1 or 2 if the offense stinks. But I just try not to take too much out of this because training camp is stacked against the offense. And specifically this training camp with talent and continuity disparities. And I just, when you say the quarterback play is lousy, I just kind of go, yeah, it hasn't been awesome, but I think lousy's too strong.
Listen, that's fair, and that's where I sometimes get in trouble with my, what do you call it, hyperbole or whatever. Maybe I was a little bit too strong. I honestly, I thought, if I just rewind, right, last Friday, I thought the first 2 days of camp, they were pretty good. I thought they were pretty sharp. And then it seems like, for me, since last Friday, and continuing Saturday and even this week. They got a little bit better this week. Last Saturday, I thought bad. Now, maybe that was the heat. Maybe that was 4 days.
No, they were definitely bad on Saturday.
Yeah.
By all accounts.
I just think, to me, when you start missing shorter, easier throws, that's where I get really concerned. I don't mind you missing a 40-yard in the air throw down like today. I think it was Howell airmailed one for De'Ami Brown, who had beaten his coverage, and he overthrew him by 8 yards, right? And it was totally uncatchable. I don't go crazy over that. I mean, sometimes you say, if you just pull the cord, you have a big play. Sure, it was a tight window, it was good coverage, all of that stuff. I don't go nuts over that. When you throw a play or when you throw a pass, basically like Howell did on the one that St. Juice picked off, and again, it was a nice play by St. Juice. He's just sitting there kind of baiting him in zone coverage in the right flat, and he just lollipops it. That's what drives me crazy. It's the if we're going to replace the run game with the short passing game, and I'm not saying they're going to do that, but a lot of offenses do that, I need you to be way, 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 way better in the short passing game than this team has been. In camp, yes, under a new offense, yes, under a new coordinator, yes, with a rookie plus quarterback, yes, all of that stuff. I just need you to be better. Maybe lousy is, again, a little bit strong, but I would, and maybe inconsistent is a little bit light for me, maybe somewhere in between that, if that makes sense.
How does disappointing work for you?
That's fair.
Okay. I'm
down.
I'm just trying to help you out. That's what I'm here for, That's my whole entire existence. Every day between 4 and 7.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, you know me. I've never been a master with words. So somehow I'm in this industry, and
you do
sometimes
just fine.
my brain doesn't exactly match up.
I need you to stop talking about Chris Russell like that. That's what I need right now. Now I'm gonna build you back up. We need you to stop talking about Chris Russell like that. Chris Russell's with us here on the Hoffman Show. Of course, the sexier headline today, though, Chris, is the fisticuffs, is the fights, is the intensity from McLaurin. Getting in St. Juice's face after he stands over a teammate who he had broken up a pass against. I'm kind of mixed on this, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't think this stuff is necessary. To show that they've got a pulse and a competitive heartbeat, fine. I don't think we need this stuff. I also don't think it's that big of a deal that it happens as long as there's, no injuries or no major risk of injuries from stupid fisticuffs or shoving or whatever may happen. But being there, feeling the emotion of it, and seeing how everyone reacted afterwards, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, and again, I wasn't able to stay for the very end of practice, but I mean, I'm with you. I'm kind of like 50-50 on this, seesawing back and forth, because I get what Ron is saying, that it's a good learning experience, that you want your teammates to kind of defend your own teammates, all of that stuff. I also get Eric Bieniemy barking and being upset at, all this shenanigans and whatever. And not only at Terry and Benjamin St. Just and what happened there, but also at Nick Gates earlier in the practice, who threw a ball at one of his teammates. Here's the thing. It's good to practice that stuff. It's good to get it out in practice. But when does that actually carry over to a game, and at what point does it carry over to a game? Meaning, if you're, 17-17 and you're moving the ball down the field and you're on a potential game-winning drive, and Nick Gates decides to be a hothead and throws a football at, Grady Jarrett of the Atlanta Falcons, does it cost you a field goal, that type of thing. Now, I can't predict that. I don't know that, but we know it happens from time to time, right? Or the opposite side of the ball. If St. Juice makes a play, nice pass breakup, which he does on a regular basis, and stands over somebody and crosses his arms and says something, that's going to be a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, and that could cost them, the possession, points, the game, whatever the case might be. So, again, I'm with you. It's not an end of the world type deal, but I wish there was a way that guys could control their emotions a little bit cleaner and a little bit better, because I do fear that this, in some way, shape, or form, will occasionally carry over into a big spot in the regular season.
Yeah, it definitely could. You just hope that guys are smarter in the regular season. It's training camp. There's not that pressure, and also they're it's hot. They're tired. They're just hitting the same guys, seeing the same guys. These kinds of things happen, but you're right. Like, showing that you have the composure is better than not. So that's that. All right. Anything big planned for you next week on the show that you would like to tell the people about? Or are you just going to take the weekend and regroup for Monday?
Well, I'm going to take the regroup. The weekend we had Mike Sellers on today, so that was a really good conversation. If people want to go check that out, the podcast available, of course, on the Odyssey app or the team980.com. It was great to catch up with Big Mike, who I guess you didn't get to cover. I did. First couple of years on the beat. And
no, I've heard he's a phenomenal dude, though.
Oh, yeah, and strong like bull, man. And he wants to get into the NFL in terms of coaching. He told me that last week. He basically said that, again today. So, he's been working at IMG Academy. So that was today. As far as next week goes, I'll be out there at practice, of course, and we'll get a couple of interviews and hope different guys as we've been doing throughout the week. But other than that, man, go to Cleveland on Friday. So I'll be at Cleveland Brown Stadium for the show next Friday and the preseason game, and then going to do some family stuff. So
love that.
Yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell.
I love that for you. I love that for us, that you're going to be there. It is kind of crazy that, we're going to be 97 minutes from kickoff a week from now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you're right.
So maybe we'll talk to you next Friday from Cleveland. We'll talk to you from the stadium. I'll have my people call your people,
Well, yeah. Call my people, schedule it. I'm a little bit booked. Got a very busy schedule, but somehow I'll try and make myself available.
Okay, we'll figure that out. Thank you, sir. Enjoy your weekend.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye. Chris Russell, everybody. Anthony, that man is one of a kind.
He is definitely one of a kind. He definitely sounds very concerned about the offense.
He does. I feel like he's less concerned now because I made him self-conscious about his concern, which is one way to approach it.
Hey, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I don't know, Anthony Haney. Put that on a T-shirt. Yeah. All right, when we get back here on the Hoffman Show, Clinton Yates joins us from L.A., where the kind of the epicenter of all this college football nonsense is. So we will talk to Yates about that here on the Team 980 Training Camp Pick 6 at 6, coming in just over a half an hour. the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And my pleasure to welcome in my good buddy, Clinton Yates. Hello, sir.
I literally got out of the cab and walked into my apartment and put my computer down and plugged in the microphone, and we're doing this. So for all of those of you who don't know, in Los Angeles, living close to LAX, that is, my friends, my saving grace, as some might say. So I'm very happy about that.
That is a must. Getting around, if LA is even more than DC, a neighborhood city. Like,
yes.
DC's got very distinct neighborhoods, but getting from one to the other is not terrible on most days under most circumstances. Right. If you have to leave your neighborhood in Los Angeles, your day is hell. So if you live in the neighborhood of LAX and you travel as much as you do, mega win.
Massive, massive W. So I'm happy about that. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Excited that it's Friday. We are, at this point, 26 and a half hours from the Beyonce concert.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so it's funny you should mention that because Taylor Swift is playing L.A. this weekend. And so when the plane landed, first of all, there were tons of Swifties on the plane who were trying to do this takeover bit. That didn't happen, but the flight attendant did acknowledge them over the loudspeaker, which was interesting. And they all let out this, like, guttural yell when she was like, "If you're going to the Taylor Swift concert, I hope you have a good time, girlies," or whatever it was. It was really funny. So,
attention passengers, if you're going to the Taylor Swift concert, I please hope that you have a wonderful time and that your friendship bracelet exchange is successful.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I would go see Tay-Tay if I had, I don't know, 3 months rent that I could just sort of donk off on going to SoFi to see her perform. But
yeah,
no, I'm joking.
Those shows have to be insane. Like, I mean, look, the Beyonce tickets were not cheap, but they were not rent level. I mean, the ones we got, there were some that were available that were rent level, and there were some that were rent level for people that pay a lot more in rent than we do.
Well, at this stage of my life, the bottom line is that Gen Pop is not how I roll. So in order for me to be up to my standards, it would have to be rent level minimum in order to get there and have fun.
Even for, like, so we're gonna do this next. Like, what's your favorite concert? We're gonna do a little concert draft. What's the one where you're like, I don't care, just get me in the building, I'm there?
Man, it's been a long time since I was in get me in the building mode. But
there's not an artist that you're just like, I don't care, I got to see him.
Well, you know what? It's more related to the venue than anything. And for a long time, 930 Club, which everybody knows, iconic big box room in D.C., in Shaw, that was a get me in the building venue. I didn't care where I was. If somebody was playing there that I liked, I was going to go no matter what. So shouts to 930 Club. They are the OG, I'll be at the show, I'll see you there location for me in DC.
Right. No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, Beyonce wasn't quite just get us in the building, like get us in the building and not in the 400s. And we reached that threshold. So that's tomorrow.
All right.
Ant went and saw Drake last weekend at Capital One, which was apparently the most lucrative concert he's ever had. I don't know how that works in terms of whatever the margins are, but like it's the most money he's ever made in a concert. So Anthony,
a lot of disassociated young men who want to be stars in DC. So, you know, I understand why that was very popular.
Anthony, how do you feel about giving Drake your money?
I had a fantastic experience, and it's probably the best concert I've been to.
Hold on, Ant, who did you go with? What was your situation for this? I did not hear about this on the air. Did you go with a friend? Did you go with a suitor? Whom were you there with?
I took my girlfriend.
Wow.
Yeah. Don't sound so surprised.
I know. The reason I say that is because, you know, not unlike Usher, that could be a you go home alone situation that night if the things don't go right for you. You know what I'm saying?
He is a certified lover boy.
Known to talk to girlies in the crowd. You know what I'm saying?
And I will say there were people throwing things at Drake. My girlfriend was not one of those people. That's all I'm happy about.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
That as far as you know.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
There was a clip that was going viral from that concert that a woman threw the piece of clothing you'd anticipate getting thrown and wrote her number inside.
We know, Craig.
Yes.
Craig, I've kept up with this part of the equation. I know very well what's going on at Drake's show.
Cool. I'll just go back to being in my little not cool corner and ask you about Pac-12 football. Thanks for playing.
It's Yo, okay, so speaking of taking planes and ridiculous performances and shows, it's not just as much about the Pac-12, but I think about this a lot because I think about, like, as far as college football realignment goes, I don't understand what product college football and its fans are trying to get to. And I use local examples because DC is not the biggest college football market, not remotely. Puts a lot of athletes into college football as a result of, local high school teams being powerhouses, but it's not some place where you're going nuts on a Saturday necessarily. And I think all the time about the time when Maryland had a super good year and they went to the Orange Bowl. And the thought was they got canned, and it was like, great. This was about as cool of an experience as we're going to get for what we're putting into our program. This arms race where like every school's got to be within contention of potentially winning it all. I'm like, what are we doing here?
It's also not true.
What?
It's also not true. Georgia murders everybody, and then they'll go down, and Alabama will come back and murder everybody.
And and on top of that, like with the transfer portal being what it is, with NIL being what it is, the playing field has leveled largely in terms of talent and experience. And it's just kind of like, at what point do you ruin whatever you had, even in the name of competition and knowing who's the best? Like, I'm sorry, I do not love it. And not because I'm obsessed with the old conferences. It just doesn't feel like what we're getting at is something that I'm going to enjoy for the format that it is beyond the football that it already was, which is, not the NFL.
Well, here's the thing, though. I don't see that as the end goal here. I see the end goal as making money. Like, this is all a giant money grab, which is hysterical because two things are happening. One is incredibly greedy and hypocritical, and the other is genuinely hilarious. The greedy and hypocritical part is you have all these people blaming NIL for the downfall of college sports when it is their own money grabs that are so naked and so obvious that are ruining all of the traditions and the geographic rivalries and, frankly, like the sustainability of the thing, because there's, the reality that, okay, for college football, it ain't that big of a deal to get on a plane and fly somewhere on a Friday and go on Saturday. But for sports that play multiple times a week that aren't major revenue generators and revenue generators and fly commercial, like we were joking earlier about how UCF and BYU are about to enter the Big 12, and there ain't a lot of flights from Provo to Orlando. So there's... Bro,
I say it all the time. I don't want to watch anybody playing baseball from the West Coast on a Tuesday in Piscataway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, I
100%.
Don't get it at all. And that's the thing that actually really genuinely bothers me. Why is this not football only? Why do volleyball players and soccer players have to be subjected to this kind of nonsense if they are technically not revenue generating anyway? I truly do not understand why the powers that be could not get it together to say, okay, we'll make football separate. Maybe even basketball if you're getting into it. But the rest of these sports that football and basketball support, this makes legitimately no sense. And it makes everybody's life so much harder. And do not get at me with, student athletes have it easy. School gets paid for. They get all this stuff. Bruh.
No, they
college
don't.
Is hard enough.
College football, yes. But your field hockey players and other, whatever are not on full ride scholarships.
No,
and by the way, those scholarships can also be pulled.
And the experience is difficult. It's hard to do. And I just, there's part of me that feels like, I don't want to say the innocence of college sports because that's a little too Pollyannish, but just the sort of the earnest effort that a lot of kids put into being a college athlete, I think has completely gone out of the window. And not because they're greedy and not because of money grabs, but because it's just going to be a little too hard at this point to be both an athlete and even be remotely committed to being any type of a scholar athlete and still, keep your sanity. I'm not looking forward to 2 seasons from now in college sports, and it has nothing to do with football or basketball.
Right. Well, and then the other part of this, the genuinely hilarious part, is Clinton Yates is with us here on the Hoffman Show. This joke has been making its way around Twitter. I think this random person that, for once, the For You page on Twitter actually worked, got put into my timeline, worded this well. So I'll read from Kyle Robbins' page. Add Stanford and Cal to get to 20. Divide the new league into 2 quote-unquote conferences. One can be the Big Ten. The other can be the Pac-10. The 2 conferences play for a championship in the Rose Bowl. Clinton, this is the dumbest circle that has ever been created because that's what's happening. Or in college football.
That's actually a brilliant tweet.
It's satire, but it's what we're headed toward. And what's actually like basically going to happen is, because of the geographic split in all of this, is the teams that matter are going to be in the Big Ten and the SEC, which are essentially going to be the AFC and the NFC. And then there's going to be geographic divisions, and you're going to have the NFL, but in college football, and it's going to have some claim to an old name that used to mean something based off geography and no longer does.
It's not for me, and I'm not an old man yelling at a cloud necessarily. I just genuinely feel that, like, the ceiling for my personal level of entertainment of this level.
Oh, we're losing Clinton's microphone here. This is tragic. I don't know if it's your microphone or your internet. Your picture's crystal clear. You look fantastic.
Are we back?
There we go. Now we sound good.
I said, I just don't need it to be this involved for what it ultimately is at the top. And that's kind of the main thing.
Right. And it's just the trickle down from what it, once you get past the top is brutal. Like, it's not, there's like, I guess this would be the ultimate question, Clinton, is like, who's this for? University presidents and ADs to line their pockets when they're already rich? Like, who is actually making more money off of this? Because also you have a lot of people that are losing money as all these media rights deals fall apart and all of these repercussions happen from moving around crazily.
And God forbid we want the kids to have some fun. You know what I'm saying? And the way that this is currently set up, it just feels like every concept of what was supposed to be fun about it is gone, either in the name of competition or dollars. And that's kind of lame to me.
And like, if you're going to do this all for economic reasons, then like, you got to pay the kids. Like, you got to pay the athlete. Like, you can't do everything for money and then be like, well, it's a business. And it's like, well, wait, hold on. What did you say? You said it's a business. What? Come again? What's the labor in this business? Is it just the coaches? It seems like those kids are working real hard. Seems like if they don't make a practice, they don't have their spot on the team anymore.
Yeah. It's pretty sad.
Yeah,
pretty sad.
It is.
Anyway, I got off the plane, and I was actually coming from a place that isn't interested in college football.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell real quick, because I'm sure there's a story coming as well about the trip to Alabama this weekend.
I'm writing a column about a game that they're going to play next year in Major League Baseball. The Cardinals are going to play the San Francisco Giants at a place called Rickwood Field, which is the oldest ballpark in America in Birmingham, Alabama. Now, the deal with it is that it's got the old school signs on the outside. It's literally looks and feels like it's 110, 15 years old, whatever it is. And Major League Baseball had an announcement yesterday at the park. And so I went, hung out with a bunch of the groundskeepers, hung out with the guy who paints all the signs, who's a really cool dude. But the best part about it, Craig, and this is the last thing I'll leave on, is they had something called a gazebo press box where you walked onto the roof of the stadium. And up there was a little setup with chairs in it from where you could watch the game. Of course, you had to take some scary rickety ladder to get up there.
Did you have to sign a waiver?
Far. No, I mean, sign a waiver. Nobody knew I was there. So, I'm sure if I died, it would have been tragic, but I didn't. And so, like, I am here for gazebo press boxes. More of this. People who are building stadiums, stick things on the roof and let people sign waivers and let them watch from up high. It's very fun. I would do this at a lot of places.
Build a more modern mechanism to get up there. We don't need a rickety ladder just for fun.
It's true.
The experience can be complete with the nice view. Clinton Yates, everybody. Read that column when it's out. Anscape, ESPN.com. Watch him on Around the Horn on your television and listen to him Fridays here.
You're
on the
my
Hoffman
saving grace. Goodbye, Gregory.
Goodbye. All right. Time to look at what's trending, and then Anthony and I are gonna do our concert draft. That's what we got here on the Team 980. Bye, Clinton.
See you, Anthony.
Here's
The Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Coming up in 12 minutes. Our training camp pick 6 at 6. Anthony's going to get me all emotional. It's my first dance song for my wedding, which is almost a year ago, Anthony. Can you believe that?
It is almost a year. Oh, my gosh, Craig.
August, let's see. How many? We got 23 days until my anniversary.
The 23-day countdown. I think Rachel posted something about this yesterday.
She did. We did our athlete countdown last year. So on our Instagram stories, we picked I think it was 30 days in. We picked an athlete with that jersey number. So we were 30 was Stephen Curry days away. So today we were Michael Jordan days away. So 23 days. And we just went on down the list of some of our favorite athletes, and that was our countdown on Instagram to the big day. But Anthony was playing that because my wife and I are going to see Beyonce tomorrow at FedEx Field, something the Commanders were preparing for all week by giving their players and coaches little whether it's lyrics or song titles to squeeze into their press conferences. Some of them did a very good job and it was very subtle. Some didn't. But their compilation is on their page. But that got us to thinking, with Anthony having gone to Drake last weekend, what are our must-see, would like to go, either we've been and would like to go back, or haven't seen them but need to concerts. But Anthony, you also said that there was something very funny that happened during the break that you needed to fill me in on. So before we get to our concert list, hit me.
Yes, so Craig, the Commanders have been preparing all week, and I've been preparing today. Craig, all day today, I've been putting in Beyonce songs, and I just wanted to see if you remember me doing any of these.
Oh, so you've been doing the thing.
It's probably going to end up going the distance. I'm hoping Jake Paul, knocks him out, gets him out of there early, just so he doesn't have to endure as much of a beatdown as I envision him beating. So sometimes you got to put your ego aside.
That was well done. What else did you do that I didn't
His is
notice?
going to average 62 mil a season. 62 mil a season.
That's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
But I love the move.
Yeah, I mean, not that they had to. I mean, honestly, if I was the Lakers, I would have probably not done it.
Yesterday was a glorified walkthrough, if you all recall. And today, it's safe to say the guys brought some energy today.
For all of those of you who don't know, in Los Angeles, living close to LAX, that is, my friends, my saving grace, as some might say.
That is a must. Getting around Fridays here.
You're my saving grace.
Yes, Craig. I got Clinton in on the bit.
You did. That's well done.
But also, I have to give a huge shout out to Rachel because I went to her earlier today.
That is so funny. So let's peel back all the way here. On Monday, the first day after you went to Drake, Rachel had popped the idea in my head to drop Drake lyrics and song titles throughout the entire show, and even wrote out essentially a script, a bunch of different takes, a bunch of different things that we could have done to squeeze them into the show, because the first I don't know that we want to put all that on the internet. For the radio audience, Anthony was holding up the note on his phone to the camera. But she is the smartest person on the show, and she just contributes from the couch on occasion when we're sitting there and I'm planning things. And I screwed up. I didn't even tell Anthony that we had the idea, nevertheless execute it. So you circled back with the queen of good ideas today and have been hitting me all show, and I didn't notice one bit.
Not at all. You were just like it was normal conversation, to be honest.
You slipped it in well. If you had tried to work in a hot sauce in my bag as poorly as Ron Rivera did, and then he doubled down on it, I think I would have been like, okay.
Yeah.
But you actually did a good job of it.
Yeah. Oh, no. But I do have one where you did almost get me, though, Greg. They're headed to the ACC.
No, they're not going anywhere. They're in the Big Ten.
Oh, my gosh. Craig, I thought I was getting cozy at this point.
Yeah. Was that you slipping in a Beyonce lyric? Or that was just your turn of phrase there by happy accident.
Oh, that was a happy accident.
Oh, okay.
And then you lied.
You
So
bought it though.
I caught you. I trusted you, and you lied.
You bought it though, Craig. You was all right. Happy coincidence.
Now I'm like, all right, let me look up the title, the song lyric, or the song titles on Lemonade, because there's got to be some. Not so much of a beautiful liar. That wasn't on Lemonade, but
I'm crying. That was good.
all right, now we don't really have time too much for that. We can do like 3.
Okay.
Concert draft. We'll just go back and forth. You get any show. You can pick, and if you want to pick somewhere, great. If you're just like, no, I just want to be able to go to Capital One or FedEx or whatever in the backyard, that's fine too. You get number 1 pick. If you could go to any show on earth, what's the concert?
This is going to surprise a lot of people, but I'm going Adele.
Damn it, that's on my list too, you son of a biscuit.
I'm talking about if I had to choose between Beyonce, Adele, Drake, all these people, I'm going Adele number 1, bar none.
I'm upset.
Really?
Yeah. I'm upset. I didn't even think I was going to have to pick that one.
Dang,
I should have known better, though. I do know you love Adele.
I love Adele.
Damn. We looked at going to see her in Vegas, but those were for 2 tickets.
Crazy. Dang.
That would have been we needed to plan in advance.
Oh my goodness.
Her residency is not cheap. We tried to work some angles. We tried nothing.
A payment plan? Would that have worked?
I mean, we could have done like a payment plan back to our savings account, but we didn't want to have to like dip into it. Like it was, it's not cheap. Because the thing is, like, the residency is at obviously like one of the theaters at one of the hotels, like one of the resorts. So it's not like it's a 70,000 seat stadium. So when you have someone who could fill a 70,000 seat stadium filling a 7,000 seat theater, there's a premium price on tickets.
Yeah.
Damn. All right, my number 1 is kind of the show I'm going to tomorrow. But if I'm going to go a step further. If Jay and Beyonce ever do another, like, On the Run 3, if they're ever in concert together again, that's my number 1 pick.
Dang.
I would pick that over Adele, too. And look, I'm with you that Adele is that was probably going to be my second pick.
Ooh.
But Rachel actually went to the show in Paris where they filmed the special. So if you've watched, I don't remember if it was Netflix or HBO, but the On the Run tour, like, concert special, she was at the show in Paris.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
In Paris is crazy.
Yeah. That's pretty sick. All right, what's your second pick?
Second pick.
Dang, I'm upset. I don't even know where I'm gonna go next.
The thing is, so I haven't seen Meek Mill in concert like ever, so I think it will have to be Meek Mill.
That's a good one.
I think I will have to choose Meek Mill. A lot of energy, and a lot of people in there screaming, and yeah.
So this now becomes easy with Adele off the board. Kendrick Lamar.
Okay.
That, like, he's crazy in concert. I love any artist that uses like live band, live instrumentation, whether they a singer or rapper, whatever, and he definitely does that. From what I've seen from his stuff in the past, like Wayne used to do that in his concerts, and it was amazing. I've seen him. I saw Drake. So Drake would probably be pretty high on my list.
You know, so I was gonna say, so for my third person, I was gonna say Travis Scott, but I would go a step further and say the whole Young Money, Cash Money, where you got Drake, you got Lil Wayne, you got Nicki Minaj, you got that whole gang crew. Oh my good, easy.
Yeah, that would
I might move that to 2, to be honest. I love Big. I might move that to 2, but Adele still stays at 1.
Yeah. I don't have a 3. I was just looking through like concerts that are coming to the DC area over the next bunch of months. Like, I mean, we saw Maggie Rogers a couple months ago. She was incredible.
Yeah,
we'll definitely go see her again. John Mayer is apparently insane in concert. I would definitely go see him. I don't know if these would qualify as my, like, what I want at number 3. So I'm just gonna leave the 3 spot open.
Okay.
for right now. A TBD. Lizzo's having a very bad week. That show
Yes, she is.
She might have been in consideration if this was 2 weeks ago. Like I would 100% go see Springsteen in concert. But I would want to go like that. That one's more specific. I would want to go with my dad, who's seen him in 25, 30 times.
Yeah.
That would be a good one. If you go see a concert with your dad, which one would you go to?
With my dad, probably be maybe like a Earth, Wind, and Fire. Like he
Ooh,
loves
that would be
old
great.
school music. Like
I would go to Earth, Wind, Fire.
yeah, I think
Call
it would be
Pops. Let's go see Earth, Wind, and Fire. Let's go. Hoffman
somebody
show party.
or Jay-Z. Like I think he would love Jay-Z.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of those mediums. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Also, if I could see I would just like to sit in the studio with Dr. Dre or Timbaland when they make a song. Forget the concert. I want to see the magic happen. I want to see how that comes together. That's what I want. That's my third spot. I'm cheating. It is what it is. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. I also just realized, Anthony, we're going to get lunch on Monday. You got to go put 5 more points on the fine board. I didn't change the date on the date graphic on the screen. So, damn. 70-30 split. Your boy's buying lunch on Monday. Just remind me on Monday. Next, though, our training camp pick 6 at 6. 6 biggest storylines of the day from a chippy day at Commanders training camp. Hoffman Show, Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Just after 6 o'clock as we steamroll towards preseason game number 1, which means we are dead in the middle of training camp. Commanders practicing today. They're off tomorrow, back on Sunday through Wednesday, travel Thursday, preseason game number 1. 1 week from today on Friday. But 6 o'clock every day during training camp, it is our Pick 6 at 6. Anthony, let's hit that funky music and get ourselves on our way to the 6 biggest things, 6 most interesting, 6 most important, whatever, depends on the day, things that we saw during Commanders training camp today. Number 1, this one's definitely in the important category. The offense did not have a good day. Is it something to overreact to? Is it something to freak out about? I would tell you no, that is absolutely not what you should do. You should realize that training camp is set up for the defense to win. It is something that you have to realize drill by drill becomes even harder because you're not game planning, and the pass rush and the continuity of the defensive line and the struggles from the offensive line that were anticipated and all of those things. However, there's got to be at some point where the offense starts to turn the corner. It looked like they were the last couple of days, but today was bad. So Ron Rivera was asked after what his timeline is for seeing the progress.
Yeah, when you start game planning, you start preparing, I think that's what's more important. I mean, right now, there's no game planning out there. You know what I'm saying? There's just learning your base fundamentals, learning the foundation of what you're going to do, and then you got to go out there and use your tools and react to it. Now you start to game plan and start saying, hey, this is what we anticipate, this is what we expect to get, these are the things that we can do, this is your toolbox of adjustments, and let's go out and make it happen. That's when you want to start to see things really come together. Right now, if they have a good day, then you know that they really things are being put together. Yesterday I thought was a good day for the offense as well. There are a lot of good things that did happen. But there really is no timeline except for when the season starts, when it's for real.
To expand on that more, when we say not game planning, like what does that actually mean? So you go into a game and you understand that it's 3rd and 7, and on 3rd and 7, 75% of the time the team plays this version of cover 3, let's say. They play a cover 3 match. Thus, you call a play to line up and play cover 3 match. And not only are you trying to defeat their cover 3 match, or a cover 3 match, you're trying to defeat their cover 3 match. You are trying to figure out how to isolate certain players, perhaps Terry McLaurin, on one of their inferior cover guys. Like you are trying to create mismatches and types of things that you don't have time to do in practice. Practice is, we're running 7 plays this period. We're going to, run whatever coverages you want, or we want you to run this particular coverage, and we're going to run it, we're going to run this play, and we're just kind of going to run it. There's no tweaks, there's no adjustments, there's no specific things in terms of personnel, and sometimes you don't even know the coverage, and because there's not an actual situation on the board, you're just running the play. There's no, you might run a route a certain way that you would run it if it was cover 3, but they're playing cover 2. Or you wind up even worse with a play that is kind of dead versus cover 2, and the defense is running cover 2, and it's bad luck. Some periods are scripted to avoid those kinds of things. Some are not. And so when you talk about game planning, that's the kind of stuff that we're actually talking about making it so that based off time, score, and situation, what is coming in. And by the way, there's certain periods that are team pass. Defense is never going to rush harder and not stay true to certain things on the back end because they don't have to worry about run fits, or they're not ever worried about running past the running back. So there's a lot of, I would say, different, little things that seem little that put the offense at a disadvantage during training camp that are actually a big deal. And when you compound them with the other factors, the continuity, and frankly, let's be real, the talent disparity between the Commanders' defense and the Commanders' offense, it's no surprise that they've had a couple of bad days along the way. Unfortunately, today, that meant tempers flared quite a bit. Chippy practice, Ron Rivera talking about it afterwards.
Again, we've got the same defense system for 4 years. Got a brand new offensive system. So I would expect them to be slightly ahead. And if not, I'd be a little disappointed in the defense and be real thrilled about the offense. Offense is where I think it needs to be in terms of its growth and development. I think the amount of stuff that they've installed, the inventory of the offenses that they've put in is a lot. So you're going to have some mistakes that are going to be made. You're going to see some of those things happen. But when it comes to what's going on with the chippiness, that's all part of it.
Anthony, is that a $10 fine or a 10-point fine for Ron Rivera for coughing into a microphone? He doesn't really have a mute button. He doesn't have an off button.
I mean, you make a great point.
It did feel like he backed away a little bit from it.
We'll give him a pass.
Yeah. All right. So Ron doesn't have to help buy us lunch. Damn. All right. Is what it is. One of the plays though that I think that did come under scrutiny is Benjamin St. Juste. He made a pass or broke up a pass. Anthony, actually, who was that against? It was one of the tight ends. Was it Cole Turner?
Cole Turner, third and short, big play.
Yeah, so he makes the pass break up, big play, gets the defense off the field. BSJ, who again we talked to earlier this week. If you missed that interview, check it out on YouTube. He gets over, does kind of the big incomplete sign, and Terry McLaurin was not happy about it. McLaurin goes up, gets in BSJ's face, took off his helmet and everything, right? And took off the helmet, gets up in his face, and is like, don't do that. That's your teammate. Bieniemy's then yelling at McLaurin to get back in the huddle. Like, tempers are flaring all over the place. And it just so happened to be Benjamin St. Juste's day at the podium. So what did Juice say about that after everybody settled down?
As long as it doesn't get, physical or you don't put, your teammate in harm, getting injured or whatever, it's all part of the game. We're going to see it during the season, all that trash talking and, taunting and all that stuff. Obviously, you got to be smart, but it's always going to be a little bit of that. And I think it brings out the best out of, both sides, offense and defense. It makes practice more competitive.
You had the one play, you break up the pass to Cole Turner, and then Terry gets upset with that. He's like, oh, don't do that to a teammate. But what's, from your perspective, what happens? And then do you talk to him after that?
Oh, yeah, obviously, I never take none of that's personal, It's not personal to any of my teammates. I'm just playing. I'm in the middle of the fire, I just made a play and all that stuff. Terry's a good captain, a good veteran to come over and say, we don't usually do that to our own teammate and all that stuff. And I respect that. That's something to look forward to and, just to be careful with. But at the same time, that's also the same fire that brings all this team together, that creates that competitive aspect that we're going to need throughout the season.
There's a little bit of I don't actually endorse this in a literal sense, what I'm about to say, but there's a little bit I can beat up my brother, but if you try to beat up my brother, I'm gonna beat you up thing that happens in football, where it's if an opposing defensive back did that in a game, Benjamin St. Juste to Cole Turner, Benjamin St. Juste would be upset, but if he does it in practice in a controlled setting, hey, it's part of the game, which is a bit silly on all fronts. One, you shouldn't beat up your little brother. But two, it's no, the competitiveness is the competitiveness, and it's either okay or it's not. I respect Terry McLaurin's opinion on this, that, hey, this is your teammate. Don't do that. I also respect Eric Bieniemy kind of going hey, this is competition. They made the play. If they celebrate, who cares? I need your butt back in the huddle so we can go to the next one. So I kind of get everybody's point of view here. And I think the thing that BSJ said at first is obviously the most important overriding thing, which is make sure nobody gets hurt, which is why what Sam Cosmi did, body slamming Phil Mathis, which, by the way, that's very impressive. There is a little piece of me that goes, hat tip to you, Sam Cosmi. You picked a big man to body slam. That's impressive. Don't ever do it again. But Sam Cosmi, and then what Nick Gates did, shoving a football in someone's face and causing punches to be thrown. Don't need that. And especially on a day where the injuries, as we get to our third thing in our pick 6 at 6, the injuries are starting to stack up a little bit. Here's Rivera afterwards with a litany of guys who are banged up.
Logan Thomas got a little calf strain, so out of an abundance of caution, we kept him off the field today. Emmanuel Forbes, they told me he tweaked his groin. They don't expect it to be anything that should be keeping him out. He should be able to play this week, but again, they're going to reevaluate, and we'll let you guys know a little bit more on Sunday. Tomorrow's their day off. Curtis, he started to feel something in the hamstring, upper glute, and we wanted to be careful again. We sat him down as well. This is one of those things that when you're looking at the
Curtis Hodges,
the metrics, today being the ninth practice, And with the amount of load these guys have got, the risk of injury starts to increase. So as soon as we started to feel something, we shut guys down, just trying to be careful with them. Cody had a little bit of a hip flexor, a little tightness this morning. He felt it yesterday. We treated him most of the day yesterday. Today he came in, he was still tight, so we didn't want to put him out there. Again, like I said, based on the metrics that we look at, one of the things that pointed to is potential for injuries. Sadiq's dealing with the calf strain, and again, we're hopeful that he'll be back out very soon.
So that is, before anyone freaks out and thinks we're going to have to bring back the Curtis Samuel side field. No, Curtis Hodges, the tight end, was Curtis there, then Cody Barton and Sadiq Charles at the end. I was just trying to do some math in my head, which did not go well because it's me and math. But last year they were running somewhere between 70 and 80 plays, typically a practice from what Logan was telling me. And now they're running about 100. So if each guy is getting an extra 8 to 10 snaps, like by practice 9, you're talking about an extra 40, 50 plays over the course of 9 practices, because some are a little shorter. Some days guys get extra reps, some guys get few. So let's say 9 days in, if you average 5 extra plays a day compared to what you used to, that's 45 extra reps. That's enough to start kind of making a difference in some of these soft tissue things. And so if you feel something, you'd rather stop and let it heal and have it be a one-day thing versus push through, pull it, and now you're out for the rest of training camp and you're questionable for the regular season, and you haven't practiced in 3 weeks when everyone else has been gearing up to get ready to go. This is smart. This is looking at data. This is looking at all kinds of things that they have behind the scenes to manage these things and kind of predict them. And as Ron said, they are doing some predicting here. And at the first sign where something expected is to happen, you pull it back, and that's how you avoid the big thing from going sideways. So this is ultimately, I guess, a good thing. You obviously love for nothing to happen, but the fact that they've gone through 9 days, 10 days, 9 practices of training camp and have had no major injuries, I think is actually a testament to what their sports science, their strength and conditioning staff, and their football staff have collaborated to do. Something that we'll continue to watch, by the way, and continue to try to understand how they're thinking about these things, because it's an area that I'm very interested in, and obviously it's very important. Availability is the best ability. Not a great camp so far for the long snapper, which is something that you don't really ever say. But Cameron Cheeseman's had a couple of bad snaps, a couple of botched field goals. Tress Way actually was on the podium today. So, Tress, what happened between you and Cheese as Joey Sly lined up there? I guess they did field goal on Wednesday when I was there, and there was a bad snap. So I had a couple here early in camp.
Yeah, Cheese has been working this new grip, and I always tell him, year 3 as a specialist, year 3 is a little funky, man. You come in rookie year, and it all just happens so fast, and you just kind of react. In year 2, you're trying to make a couple strides, work on some particular things, and then in year 3, you're sitting there and you're a vet. You should have it all figured out. You know this, that, protections, you know the feeling, and you start to kind of, and rightly so, be a perfectionist. And so he's been working on this grip, and man, he's throwing nails, but that hardest transition is into those team periods and preseason. And we were talking about it after, because I mean, that dude works his tail off, and it's been bugging him. And I was like, man, that's the ultimate time to just trust yourself. You got to do it. You got to go out there, the team situations and preseason games, because it's ultimately the way to go. He's been snapping great. So good news is you get to come back in 48 hours and do it all over again. So we'll be all right.
Trust the ultimate pro. I'm not going to lie, Anthony. I am not going to hot take and overreact to this. And hopefully this is the last time respectfully, I hope this is the last time we talk about Cameron Cheeseman. It's just that's the nature of the long snapper position. Nothing was wrong. I don't love that he's tweaking stuff. I mean, I guess if it's the best thing for the team, but why did you gotta, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why are we having bad snaps in training camp when he was fine? It seems weird to me.
I mean, Trush just said it. I just feel as though, he knows how good he is, and I think he just wanted to improve a little better, just like quarterbacks when they work on their mechanics and their release. sometimes like we may think they're released.
Yeah, but
quick.
like they might be working on it so they can complete a ball in a tight window or be a little bit more accurate. Did Cameron Cheeseman have problems last year that none of us knew about?
Nah, not necessarily.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they have I will give them this credit, and I'm not trying to I'm not trying to overreact. It's just like you had an uneasy feeling when you miss a couple of field goal snaps in training camp. You're like, what is that all about? But they have a stopwatch on these things, and like I know his is quick. Like they do a great job, and obviously the faster the ball gets back to Tress, the faster it can get down, the faster Sly can get it off, and thus less of a chance of a field goal block. So a slow snap is a huge issue, but he was a guy that had a reputation as being one of the better ones, just real snappy, no pun intended. So I'll take whatever version came last year when they were fast and accurate versus this one. But I guess if it's training camp for everyone, if this is his chance to work it out, then go ahead and get your mistakes out now, because come regular season that you can't be having bad snaps.
I mean, they probably also just didn't want to put all the blame on Joey Sly because he is in a kicking battle, and it was a bad snap. It might have messed off the time. We don't know. But the fact that he missed didn't necessarily help out the fact that it was a bad snap either.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. The timing is super important there. Kickoff, you don't got to worry about a snap. You just put the ball on the tee and boot it. And during that kicking competition, Joey Sly seems to have a big head up on the guy that they brought in, who's not as good of a kickoff guy. And neither of those guys are going to have to worry about Tress Way doing anything with kickoffs. Tress would like no part of it, but he does have thoughts on the new kickoff rules.
I know Coach Rivera is probably going to watch this, but I want no part of kicking off. No, thank you. That'll tear the leg right up. But I think with these new kickoff rule changes, with the fair catches and kind of treating those as touchbacks where the ball goes out to the 25, there's a big question mark on how a lot of people are going to handle kickoffs. Like, are you still going to have guys that just blast it through the end zone for the touchbacks? Hey, if you try to kick to cover, like Graham Gano for the Giants is really good at placing the ball right around the goal line where you had to return it. But now you can fair catch it if, their cover team's killing it that year. You can just fair catch it and take it on the 25. So I think, like, you have two guys that both are kicking incredible in the way they're handling their field goals and making just about every dang kick. But I feel like Badge getting a chance to prove how he wants to handle kickoffs. And I mean, at the end of the day, like, you put out how you're going to play, like, hey, this is how I go about it. And coach and the front office makes a decision on who they want to go with. So we'll probably get into it next week, and then for sure for the Cleveland game. And I'll be interested to see how Cleveland special teams handles kickoff returns in general. So whole lot of moving pieces, but I would say that's something we'll probably see that first preseason game.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be the bigger leg had the advantage because that kickoff and getting it through the end zone is so important to not give up a big play. And then obviously if you have more field goal range, that's a big deal. But if you can just kick it high and, land it at the 7, but the teams are going to fair catch it, that becomes an advantage. And if you're the more accurate field goal kicker, if you're, then maybe you wind up winning the job. So it's going to be pretty interesting. I'd imagine we see both guys kick against Cleveland. And it's just not a lot of volume though. Like they're not going to play for field goals so they can play out the kicking competition. It's going to come down to how they practice as well. Our pick 6 at 6, that's 5, which is Tress Way's number. Number 6 is just going to be Tress Way. This is not important. This is not meaningful, but it will make you smile and possibly laugh out loud. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Tress Way.
I would go psychological warfare for sure. Like,
by the way, hold on, pause, Anthony. I didn't know if you were going to include the question, so that's on me, but no penalty. Just a miscommunication, incomplete, second down. Tress was asked after all the chirping today if he was going to participate in trash talk. How would he trash talk? Here's Tress Way.
I would go psychological warfare for sure. Like, if I'm playing defense and I see Sam Howell, I'd be like, hey man, do you inhale or exhale when you're throwing the ball? And then just that next play, he'd be like, I don't know, but I know I'm not going to scare anybody if I get up there. So I just kind of try and, weave my way through as much as I can and try and get into your head. If I can live there rent free, then it's game on. They do. It doesn't work. but they do try. I used to have a really good magician's assistant, Matt Ioannidis. The rookies would be all around for punt team, and Ioannidis would always be like, "Hey Tress, I'll pay you $100 today if you do this whole punt session left-footed." I'm like, "Man, I don't know, man." He was like, "Come on, just do it lefty. What's coach going to care?" I was like, "All right, I'll go lefty." And I just rifle one off, and the rookies are like, "Oh my gosh, where am I?" Like, so, I'm trying, I try and sprinkle it in on the guys, but it's all right. Yeah, psychological warfare. Guys, good chatting with y'all.
In case you didn't know, Tress Way is left-footed, which seems like an important point there. Tress, one of the best guys, and also arguably the best player on the team. Position specific, but arguably the best player on the team. Actually, no, he didn't make All-Pro. Reeves made All-Pro. It's a shame that Tress Way doesn't have an All-Pro to his name. What are we doing? Voters of the All-Pro. All right, that is our pick 6 at 6 every day during training camp at 6 o'clock. So next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we will have it for you. Thursday, the team is traveling to Cleveland. And then we'll figure out what we do on Fridays. We'll get to be just an hour from kickoff a week from right now. Actually, well, at this point, we'd be about half an hour from kickoff a week from right now. That's nuts. We also put these up daily on YouTube, so make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/@Craig Hoffman. Of course, we stream live, youtube.com/@theteam980. When we get back, a bunch of random stories going on around the world of sports. One of the NFL's best suspended Cap superstar re-signs, and a preview of the World Cup this weekend for the U.S. That's next, and this, that, and the other thing here on The Hoffman Show. Final half hour, the Hoffman Show here on the Team 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Time to hit the other top stories of the day. A little segment we call This, That, and the Other Thing. 3 stories that may not be the top headline, but are worthy of at least a moment's discussion. This one definitely is a big story here in D.C. Not necessarily any urgency other than it happened today because it's about sustainability. It's about someone who's now going to be here for a long, long time. That guy is Tom Wilson. Top line Tommy signing a 7-year, $45.5 million extension today with the Capitals. Obviously fantastic. And I was talking with someone earlier today. It was with Brandy Flores from DC News Now before we were taping our hit. And Tom becomes one of 2 athletes that will now be in DC, at least contractually set to be. Of course, there's always trades and stuff. But set to be here all the way through 2030. I'm trying to remember who the other one is. It was Ruiz from the Nats. Will now be here. Obviously, in the NBA, you can only sign 4 or 5 year deals depending on your situation. The NFL, nobody signs contracts that are 7 years long. But it just shows you like how rare this is and how long Wilson is set to be in town. And you think of guys that are worth that. They've got to be obviously fantastic players, and he is. You want someone who's a leader. He is. He's someone who's going to bridge generations of this team if Ovechkin ever actually retires. Obviously, Wilson is someone who was here for the Stanley Cup win and was young on that team, but still a significant contributor, and will kind of carry on what it means to be a Washington Capital for what will, by the time he is done, be well over a decade. So congrats to Tom and Taylor, his wife, on having all of this new money. That is fantastic. On having the stability of being here for a long time. Congrats to the Capitals on signing a top player. And I don't know that anybody that is a DC sports fan, a Capitals fan, has any sadness about this in any possible way. I don't see how you could. I'm sure there's some Capitals fan that hates Tom Wilson for some reason or another, but good player. Long deal. Certainty for a team that doesn't have a lot of it. Good things all around. That's this. That, opposite side of the spectrum, bad news. The news was already bad. Now you just get the consequences of the action. So Alvin Kamara got into a pretty nasty situation out in Las Vegas. There's video and the whole deal of him in a fight, punching someone. It was bad. And it's kind of been floating in the background for a while in the legal system, and then ultimately for what today's news is in the NFL's like personal conduct policy system. And with some of the legal stuff being worked out recently, Kamara now gets the suspension, and it is 3 games for Alvin Kamara. I don't know here's the thing. When stuff like this happens, Anthony, I don't know what the takeaway is, because this is one of the guys who's a top fantasy running back, but it feels silly talking about fantasy football when we're talking about 2 players, because it's not just Kamara, it's Colts corner Chris Lamons, who, by the way, Colts, what a camp they're having, being suspended because they got in a massive fight in Vegas. How does this affect Alvin Kamara's fantasy stock? Just seems trite and silly, but that's what happens with these things.
You'll be surprised, Craig. Granted, he is missing 3 games. He'll still get drafted pretty high.
Oh, yeah, no, I know he will.
I saw a stat today, since 2017, he's been averaging 101 scrimmage yards for the past 5 seasons, I guess. Only 3 behind McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, and Jonathan Taylor. So he's still going to get drafted.
He's still awesome. And, 3 games out, he's still worth drafting. But, tell that to the guy that he punched in the face, I
know.
And it's always the thing with, the NFL's personal conduct policy. And I'm not even criticizing anybody who has fantasy questions, or I'm not criticizing the NFL here. It's just a very silly question we ask. And, a fight between 2 dudes or a bunch of dudes in Vegas is, I feel more comfortable having this conversation, and it feels a little less silly than like some of the more heinous things that NFL players have done over the course of time. But it's like, how many games is an assault worth? 3. It's like, what are we even talking about? So it's an impossible spot. Like, there is no right answer where there's like, yep, that's great, or like, oh, that's too heavy-handed. That's not enough. Like, we're talking about football games and time suspended and money lost for what I mean, in this case, a violent crime, albeit a fight that got out of hand because Alvin Kamara is a very big, strong dude. But it just always feels silly to talk about. But Kamara suspended 3 games. There, that's the news. The other thing, swing back to happier thoughts. U.S. Women's National Team getting ready to go again on Sunday morning. It'll be Sunday night, New Zealand time. 5 a.m. is the kickoff here in the States on the East Coast. And this is their arch nemesis in a lot of ways in Sweden. They knocked them out of the 2016 Olympics. They knocked them out of the 2021 Olympics. They beat them, I believe, in 2016 as well. They beat them in a World Cup before. I think the U.S.'s last loss in a World Cup was actually to Sweden, if I'm remembering. Well, I guess no, their last loss would have been the 2011 final. But they lost to them in the group stage. Maybe it was it was their last loss. It was 2019 or 2015. I think it was 2019. They lost, even though the U.S. ultimately came back and bounced back and won the entire tournament, but they lost in the group stage. So, long story short, very, very tough team. Not scared of the U.S. at all. And the U.S. has all of these tactical problems that they need to solve. Mainly, they can't leave Andy Sullivan just alone to cover the entire middle third of the field. Andy is being asked to do way too much. There is a really, really phenomenal write-up by my buddy Jason Anderson. You can follow him at Jason DC Soccer on Twitter and get the link to his piece on Pro Soccer Wire about how the U.S. is basically defeating themselves, and they're just leaving way too much space. Like, imagine if you played single high safety coverages all the time, but your corners never actually covered their parts of the field. You'd be like, that single high safety seems to have a lot of ground to cover, and they're basically making Andy Sullivan play single high safety with no corner help on either side. And sure, Ed Reed could do it. He could go sideline to sideline like that. But unless you're Ed Reed, or in this particular case, Germany's Lena Oberdorf, who's, by the way, her team knocked out, it's not a human task that can be asked. And it's also causing other problems, which is why they aren't scoring as many goals as they should. So hopefully they can figure this out. I would love to see Ashley Sanchez in this game, obviously, with Rose Lavelle suspended on yellow card accumulation. Likely we'll see Savannah DeMello in that role, but Ash could be coming off the bench. And then one other Washington Spirit note, and obviously one of the more notable players on the team, Trinity Robin actually missed practice this morning with a cold, so we'll see what her readiness is by the time we get to Sunday. I will say, all of this Carly Lloyd nonsense, all of the talk around this team, if they can get as ticked off as Lindsey Horan did when Danielle Vandendonk messed with her in the game and she scored her angry goal against the Netherlands, if they can kind of gather and rally around the criticism, I think that they'll be okay. There's still a grit and determination to this team that I think is incredibly admirable. They do have to do better on the tactics and the strategy and the execution, but I think the U.S. wins this 2 or 3-0, if I'm being honest. Maybe 2 or 3-1. Because they rally around, and then we'll see if they can sustain it for the rest of the tournament. That's this. That's that. That's the other thing here on the Hoffman Show. Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And when we get back, we will have real things, real people said, into real microphones as we look ahead to the weekend on the Team 980.
Here's what's trending on the Team 980.
College football realignment in full swing. Man, this is a big swing. Utah, Arizona State, the latest. Sources telling ESPN that they have applied for membership to the Big 12. Arizona had already applied, so no surprise that Arizona State is far behind. Oregon and Washington have officially joined the Big 10 as the Pac-12 dissolves before our very eyes. If you're a West Coaster looking for some continuity, though, look no further than the Lakers. Anthony Davis agrees a $186 million extension. That is a 3-year extension, which will keep him in LA, barring a trade, of course, until 2028. Technically, this is now the richest contract in NBA history, richest extension at least, as Davis's full deal will average $62 million a season. That is what's trending. I'm Craig Hoffman on the Team 980. Every week, and yet I was not ready for it. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well, sending you into the weekend on the free Odyssey app. Oh man, Anthony, I was getting ready to ask you, like, how what you up to this weekend? Are you ready? Are you excited? And then just bam, Rebecca Black hits you out of nowhere. I guess, Anthony, you still have it going in queue?
I did, but I have since paused it.
Okay, that's probably good. That's probably good. Because I do want to know, what are you up to this weekend? We're going to Beyonce tomorrow. What are you up to?
So tomorrow and Sunday, I have a flag football tournament taking place in Baltimore.
Right. That's right. You and your hamstring are ready to go.
I think so. I hope so. I'm not gonna lie, Craig. When I sit in this chair, for some odd reason, my hamstring gets really tight and uncomfortable. Maybe it's the chair. I'm not sure what it is, but literally when I get home, I stretch because I'm like, this chair.
I feel like we should both stretch more during the show. There was one point that Rachel suggested we should do like a push-up challenge during the show. We should just do 10 push-ups every single break.
I mean, hey, look, I love push-ups. If you can hang, we can do it.
If I can hang.
Craig, I don't mean to come off like so confident and like arrogant, but I think I can do more push-ups than you straight.
I mean, that's definitely possible.
Okay.
I'm not ruling that as a possibility.
Now, muscle endurance.
10. Well, I mean, what do you think push-up straight is? But 10 every break for a show I can handle.
Okay. Yeah.
Also, what do you bench? What's your 1 rep max? Wow, we're just incredible meatheads right now.
I don't have a 1 rep max just because
What do you think you could do? I haven't done mine in a while, but like if I was like, bro, on the bar, you get $1 for every bar you bench. If you complete the 1 rep successfully, I'll give you $1 for every pound that's on the bar.
1 rep right now?
Yeah, I mean you can warm up, but other than that, right now, how many dollars are you confident you could get?
I think $240. That would be my 1 rep.
Okay.
Max.
Yeah, you got me then. I don't think I could get $240. I could get $225.
One time?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can do $225 at least like 3 times.
Okay. At my peak, I could do that. I don't think I'm at my bench press peak right now.
Yeah, I don't. That's why I say I don't know what my max is. I don't bench to figure out what my max is. As a kid, that was intriguing.
What's the
now,
most you've ever benched?
The most I've ever put on the bar is 225, and I did it 3 times.
Okay, it's not bad. I've definitely hit 230, 235 before.
Oh yeah, I haven't gone above that.
That could be a fun game. We got to do that. We got to do your 40. Basically, we need to do a combine.
We're long overdue for the 40.
Yeah, we got to do that. Maybe next week.
Yes.
Let's just do it for once. All right. I'm gonna go to the Beyonce concert, and then I got to figure out how late that is gonna go because that will determine whether I wake up at 5 and watch the game live or not on Sunday. I can then go back to bed. Rachel cannot. She's got something to do on Sunday morning, so that might be a negotiation. We'll see what we can do. Anyway, it's time for Real Things.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5 and 11. Not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right, first of all, let's let you hear from a guy we talked about in the last segment. Tom Wilson, going to be a Capital for a long, long time.
Hey, Cavs fans. So excited to sign an extension to stay with this team. It's really what I always wanted. The fan base, the organization, the city, it all means so much to me. And just want to say thank you for all the support over the years. You've made DC feel like home, and I can't wait to get started this season and keep it going. Hey, Cavs fans.
You know why I love that so much? He dropped the best word in hockey lingo. Organization. Full Canadian pronunciation. Tom Wilson. Salute. Then there's Stugotz. Oh boy. Stugotz from the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. He was the last couple of days helping fill in on our affiliate up in New York. You may have heard of it, WFAN, big famous sports talk radio station. And he told this story about his Venmo account.
I am in charge, so I'm going with a bunch of friends, and I'm in charge of getting the 4 tickets for every show. And I'm also in charge of booking hotels, like the whole deal. I don't know why I'm in charge. I should not be in charge of anything.
All people, yeah, right.
Exactly right. And so it's pricey. And my wife starts to notice all the money that's being zapped out of our checking account because that's what my wife notices. She doesn't notice anything else other than our balance.
Right.
Okay?
Your interest.
You don't care about me.
You're right. Anything? No, it's just the money.
Yes, just the money. So I said, hey, don't worry about it. I know it's expensive. Everyone has sent me Venmos, so the money should be back into the account. She goes, we haven't received a Venmo from any of your friends during this entire time that you've been purchasing dead tickets. And I said, well, what are you talking about? I get an alert that they have Venmoed me all the time. So she said, let me look at your phone. I had no idea. I thought, okay, that when someone Venmos you money, it goes straight to your bank account.
Nope.
I had no idea there was a Venmo bank, that there was another step that you had to do once it reached the Venmo app. And that step is taking it from the app to the checking accounts. So we were out like $20,000. I'm not joking.
And it was in Venmo?
It was in Venmo.
Oh, my God.
For months. So then I started scrolling back and realized I've never transferred a Venmo from Venmo to my checking account.
In your entire time that you've had Venmo?
We had more money in my Venmo account than we did in my checking account.
What an incredibly perfect idiot. What that is, if you listen to Lebitard's show or have at any point and you know Stugatz, that is perfect. No notes. Incredible. That is so much money. And by the way, the funny thing is, there's definitely someone listening or someone that was listening to them this morning that learned that they should also check their Venmo account. All right, we'll see you on Monday. More training camp recap here on The Hoffman Show.